So today I've got a check engine light showed up on my 2013 GMC Sierra 2500 HD. I'm going to run you through checking the codes, and ultimately, since I already know what the code is, it's for a glow plug. I tend to only replace glow plugs after I get codes. Recently did the number 1, number 2. I believe this one is the number 4. So I'll walk you through checking the code, and then we're gonna get down to business and I'll show you how to change out the number 4. I'm using the Actron. It's model number CP9125, but there are many different code readers out there. Depending on what yours says how to do it, you should follow those directions. At first, I'm going to plug this one in to the this port right here. Just a simple plug in, and then I'm going to start the vehicle. And then I'm going to press read. Oh, it's coming up with 2 codes now, so I'm going to press read again for the next one. It's a P0674, and we'll press read again. Oh. So it's just saying that it was the P0674 that was recently shown and erased, but it's returning. So now I'm going to go ahead and erase the codes. Put it in again, and it's done. Alright, then I'm just going to disconnect and turn off the key. Alright, so as I mentioned, it was a P0674. P0674 glow plug heater cylinder 4. So some people will disconnect the battery before they do a lot of different jobs on vehicles. For this particular job, I don't disconnect, but if you feel safer that way, go for it. So as far as cylinders go on these Duramax diesels, you've got the odds on the passenger side and the evens on the driver's side. So over on this side, we're going to have 1, 3, 5, and 7, and the 1's going to start up from the fan blade working to the back, and then on the driver's side, you're going to have 2, 4, 6, 8 from the fan back. So today we'll be doing number 4, which will be the second one away from the fan on the driver's side. Alright, so here we are under the driver's side, and the first thing we're going to do is remove all the bolts that are on the inside of this fender well, and there's a few little, not sure what the terminology is for them, but they're like a little pop rivet. You put a straight slot underneath there, pull them out, and that loosens them up enough to where you can pop the rest of it out. Make sure you hang on to those, because you'll need them to put it all back in. So I'm going to go ahead and take apart this fender well, and then we'll get to the inside and start working on it. Along with these little pop-outs here, we also have a few things that are mounted into the fender well here that you can just push up from the bottom or go into the top and pull them out. They just pop in and out of there. We've got 2 different types of bolts on this particular one. We've got a 10mm here, and these that I took down up here along the inside of the fender are all 7mm. There's also a couple underneath here that are also 10s. Alright, so this is the collection of clips and little screws that I took out of the fender well that held it all together. Like I said, you had 10mm and a 7mm heads, which is what I use the sockets for, and the straight slot to pop these out. Just a little up close demonstration. So when it's up in there, this is going to be all, you're just going to see this outside face here on up against the fender well. You'll put this in and kind of pry this centerpiece out with a straight slot, getting it to pop out. And once it pulls out of the inside of it, it releases the tension on this, which is holding the plastic up into the hole on the frame or fuselage there into the body. It's keeping the fender well up in there. And then you just, sometimes this will pull out by itself separately, and then you just pry the screwdriver under there and this will pop right back out. Other times they'll come out with this still intact, but as you can see on some of these, the heads are starting to get pretty worn out, and it'll get to a point where I won't even be able to use them, so I'll have to buy some new ones. But that is it. When you put them back in, you just make sure it's out like that, push it into the hole, make sure it's through the fender well and into the hole behind it, and then once this is flush up against the fender well, you push this centerpiece back in and that locks it into the hole. Alright, so now the fender well is all loose. Yep. The only thing holding it in now are those clips I spoke to you about up in here. Alright. We'll pull the fender out to where you can see up in here, and then you'll be able to see the pieces that are stuck into it, and just pull them out. There's one. Pull that out. Pull this one out. Alright, so that's it on those, and you can pull the whole fender out. And once you have the fender well pulled out, it gives you access to a lot of stuff. So since we're on the driver's side, this is going to be the number 2. This one will be the number 4. This one right there will be number 6. And that one back here, the tip of my finger, is number 8. So today we're going to take care of number 4. So this is going to be a 8mm socket. 8mm socket, and I've got a little universal on here to allow it to get a little up in there, because the steering shaft is a little in the way, so get down on it. Got it loose. You want to make sure you hold on to the little nut when it comes off, because who knows where things land when you drop them in an engine area. Hopefully they hit the bottom and fall out, but sometimes they'll get caught up in there and never to be seen again. And then we just pull that little connection off. See that there? Alright, so I tried a couple of things, and getting the best thing for this number 4 has been the wrench. I tried a real deep socket, but the steering column, or steering shaft, whatever it is here, is in the way of getting that deep socket on. Short sockets are too short because of this stud that sticks out here. Put this wrench up in here and just ended up turning it and broke it free. Some people talk about these being in there pretty good if whatever they my light keeps dying, so to do this I just light I have. So it's, once you break it free, this is the third one I've changed out, and they've all been finger, where you can finger them off once they're broken. And this is the number 4. It looks a little charred on the end, which all the ones prior that I've changed have also, so nothing else wrong with it. When I put the next one in, I'm going to put some antifreeze around these threads here, and that should prevent any future problems of getting it out. Not that I've had any so far. So here they are, side by side, same exact part. We got the charred one and the brand new one. I'm going to go ahead and use this anti-seize. It's got a little brush in it. Just a gobby goo of anti-seize. I'll wipe this around the threads, and from what I've heard, I haven't experienced it, but if these things get seized up in there when you're trying to turn this and get it out, you could actually break it off somewhere in here. It'll break off, and the threads, because the threads are locked in there, and that's a pretty expensive repair, going in and pulling this core back out and redoing whatever they need to do. So as you can see, I've put it on pretty conservatively, just right around the threads there. Tried not to get it anywhere else. I'm going to go ahead and stick this back exactly the way I pulled it out, down the same hole, and start to screw the threads in. You got to make sure that the threads go smoothly when you're screwing it in. If you misthread it in the first place, you don't want to put a wrench on it, and then you'll be in a world of hurt when you ruin those threads. Yeah, it's super easy to turn the threads when you have the threads on the right way. I'm just spinning the tip of the glow plug in my hand, and it's just the threads are going on like butter until they get to the bottom, which they have. And now I'll use my 12mm wrench on it and just give it a slight turn. And that's it. Now I'm going to take this connection here, just a little connector that slides over the end of the threads there and the end of the glow plug. Slide it back down. Push it all the way to the bottom there. And last but not least, take this little nut. And it has its own little kind of a self-locking nut on it, so screw it back down on the threads and make sure you don't it should go on just as smooth as the last one, and we're going down the thread zone. Once it lines up, I've got one finger here. I'm using one finger to turn the nut, and it's turning freely without any resistance. Alright, the nut's all the way down, and now I'm going to get my 5/16 socket with a little universal here on my little 1/4-inch drive, and actually 1/4-inch screwdriver drive. I'll slide it over the top of that. And that's it. So tightened it down. Nothing else we took apart. Just this little wire, the nut, the glow plug. Pulled it out. Changed it with the new one. Put the anti-lock or anti-seize goop on the threads. Slide the glow plug in there. Screwed it down. Tightened it with the wrench. Slid the wire back onto it, this nut back onto it, and now we'll just button up this fender well. Alright, so before I throw this fender well up in here, remember we took off these out of the top of the fender well. These little connections here, they just pop into holes in the top of the fender well. That's going to be the first thing I do, all these, before I start bolting the fender down. I'm going to connect all those pieces into the fender. It also helps kind of holding the fender up. And these are all the holes I'm talking about in the top of the fender that those little pieces pop into. There's a lot more here than you need, but just pop it into the most convenient one where it's not gonna, those harnesses don't move around much to begin with, so you got to find the one that's closest to where they are. First I'm going to get it somewhat in position here to where it looks like it's going to match up with everything I got. Alright, and then I'll go back up in here and start popping those little ends. I'm going to start by loosely attaching these little 7mm screws, just enough to get them to hold the fender somewhat in place of where it's supposed to be, so I can line up the holes with the little ones that you pop in. So I've got the little 7mm screws loosely holding the fender in place. You can see where a lot of the other, where these right here go in, there's a hole right here. I'm going to push the bigger part in first and then the center, and that locks it in place. There's another one down here on the bottom. Actually, a couple of them. Make sure the fender's lined up, pop it in. And pop it in. So there's two there. There's one right up here. Take another one of the little poppers, push it in, and pop it in. There's another one straight above. Alright, got another one right there. Push it in. And lock it in. Another one in the back. Push it in, pop it in. We got two more of these left, and they're both right here. Alright, so see those holes right there? Got two of them. We're gonna push that in. It's seated fully down, and then you push the center in, and that locks it to where you can't pull it back out. Do it the same with this one. Push it in and lock it in. That's it. Alright, so this is up underneath in front of the tire where the fender comes down, and as I mentioned, it's kind of fallen apart here as far as the wear and tear. This 10mm bolt goes through here, and it's pretty much just the washer that's holding on to this plastic, but there's a hole in the little threads in the bottom of the fender that you just got to thread it into. And once you get it going, it's fairly simple. It gets a little bound up there, but the threads started off good, so it's in the right track. Over here on this one, this is one I didn't get off because it's already busted through, so I think I was able to just loosen up the little bolt enough to slide that off, and then I put it back on like so, and just tighten it down enough to where it's somewhat holding it in place. So almost forgot, before you put that fender well up in there, you want to check and make sure the code is no longer present. Since we erased it before we started, it should not pop back up. Let's go ahead and give her a try. All the lights are out. And last but not least, I'm going to tighten up all these little fender screws with the 7mm. That was about it. Everything went smoothly. No more code. We'll wait for the next one to pop up when it's time to change the next glow plug. Hope you all have a great day. Take care.